Hi, Professor Rich Roth here. Talk to you for a few minutes about the sports media major at Franklin Pierce University and talk about where the program comes from and what it has to offer you. I spend most of my time talking about what the major requirements are for the program. We got started because we have always had students coming into our mass communication and communication majors who were really interested in sports and sports broadcasting. And we would cobble together courses to make such a program work for them. But over the last 20 years, the need for media content that focuses on sports has continued to grow because of the spread of multiple ESPN channels, ESPN college and university channels, college divisions buying their own media outlets and trying to produce sports covering all of the basketball games of every team in a home season, etc. And we at Franklin Pierce happen to have 25 or 26 varsity teams that are very competitive in the NCAA's Division II. We have a baseball team that's won the World Series. We have men's and women's soccer teams that have gone to the national championship, as well as countless sports throughout the fall, winter, and spring seasons on campus. So we looked at it as an ideal laboratory by which we can take students who are interested in being professional communicators and who want to focus their professional communication on sports and give them a laboratory to work in for the 9 months that they're here, covering all of these different events, which provides needed content to the athletics communication program and now to the NCAA and the New England 10 Conference, who are looking for us to have all of our home games live streamed by next year. So we have a major that really came along at just the right time for the university's needs, and the response of students who came into the school looking for a program like this has been phenomenal. We had hoped over a 4-year period to grow the major to about 40 students, and by the end of our second year had 44 students, all eager to work in production of sports content. But perhaps it's best if I talk a little bit more about that background as I go through the actual requirements of the program, and you can see where the coursework that we've developed for this major is really tied to the practical needs of the students who are coming through the major, as well as to the university and the sports conferences programming needs. So let's take a look at the academic requirements of the sports media major. So the program is comprised of 39 credits to major in it. There are 33 credits that are a core group that all students in the program take. There will be some elective credits as well that I'll talk about a little later. The first course that you would take in this program is called Foundations of Sports Media, and it's a background into the origins of sports media, going back to the ancient Greeks and poems that were written about the top winning athletes of the original Olympics, through the economics of modern sports media and the powerful financial dynamic between network televisions and professional sports, as well as NCAA sports, and the big money that's involved. The first hands-on practical course that I'll talk about is Journalism 1, which is a traditional basics of writing print journalism, doing the research, knowing the questions to ask, knowing how to write news stories, whether they're for a traditional newspaper or an online newspaper or a blog. The basics of approaching journalism really haven't changed in terms of how do you get the information that's going to be most suitable for your audience. At that same time, at the 100 level, we also have the introduction to media production, where we learn the fundamentals of how to prepare and plan to shoot video, to record good sound, and to edit the video and the sound into compelling video stories. From there, we move on to sports reporting, which springs off of the Journalism 1 course and has students working to write regular articles, game summaries, investigative reports, and really honing their writing skills. We know that students, even if they say they want to be a play-by-play announcer or they want to be a camera operator on Monday Night Football, almost everybody is going to need to be able to write about sports, even if it's for the radio station's website or for the blog of the employer. We go into the TV studio for a multi-camera production course where students will learn how a talk show like SportsCenter is put together and how you cut a show live with multiple cameras operating simultaneously, how to produce and direct such a show, how to be the on-air talent if you happen to be the reporter or the news desk person who is on camera, as well as the students who are behind the cameras making all the production elements work. So we have that course. We also then move into sports media production, which flows out of the Intro to Media Production course. And in sports media production, the students focus specifically on putting together news packages, short 1.5 to 2 minute stories about either an upcoming game, a pregame news package, or about a game that just wrapped up earlier that night, a game summary that includes doing live stand-up on camera as the sports reporter on the scene. And that course also includes doing mini documentaries that go and look further depth at an athlete or a coach or a team and some unique story angle that we know that sports fans want to hear more about the lives outside of the sporting events of their favorite sports performers. We have a course called Diversity and Media. In this course, students will be looking at primarily race and gender and how media coverage of athletes differs by race and gender, but also about how the opportunities to get into the sports media as professionals are affected by a person's race or gender. So it really tries to cover both the sports media as employment centers and also the ways in which athletes and sports are covered and are influenced by racial and gender aspects. Convergent Journalism is an upper level course. As you see, it's a 300 level course that has students working together to produce a weekly online newspaper, The Exchange. And the students in sports media production who work for Convergent Journalism will obviously be focusing on producing sports media content that will include multimedia elements like news stories, sports news stories, could include writing about sports and getting it all up and onto the online platform that is The Exchange on a weekly basis. My favorite course of all of the courses that we designed for this program is the International Sports Culture course. In that course, we take an in-depth and critical look at how the two main international sports productions, the FIFA World Cup and the IOC Winter and Summer Olympics, have been put together over the decades and how they affect the climate and the culture of host nations and host cities. We also look at the sports that are popular outside the US that American sports lovers tend not to be as familiar with. Sports like football, or what we call soccer, but more obscure sports as well, like, say, kabaddi, which is very popular in Afghanistan. So we look at these sports and try and learn about the broader cultures that surround sports around the world. Because truthfully, when a student gets done with a program like ours, whether it's at Franklin Pierce or any other university, they are not offered a contract to cover the Olympics or to be the play-by-play announcer for the Boston Red Sox. They are going to be starting in more minor sports and more obscure sports. For example, you would position yourself very well if you understood cricket fully, because American media networks have already bought the rights to cover cricket in the US. They're just trying to figure out when and how they're going to have an audience prepared to get cricket so that they can start producing it. So cricket is coming, and we might as well be prepared for it. We go outside of the Department of Communication and Sports Media to take a course in the business school in either sports marketing or in public relations. Both of those programs are looking at another angle to how people can earn a living in sports media, because just as you might cover a game for NBC as a play-by-play or color commentator or a camera operator, etc., you might in fact be working for a team or an arena and generating marketing materials to promote the needs of the team, the needs of the arena, the needs of the stadium. You might even get a job as the digital media professional who runs the Twitter account for a particular athlete. Athletes don't always create their own digital social media. The higher paid athletes are usually employing someone to maintain their digital persona. Public relations involves looking at campaigns to promote. Again, in the marketing department, they're looking at campaigns to promote any kinds of products. The students in sports media who go into that course focus on how do you promote one of the teams, or how do you promote an event on campus that's a sports event. And the last required course of the core is the Capstone in Sports Media, which involves students spending most of the course building their portfolio or their demo reel, working with the Career Services Department to hone their resume, their letters of application, looking for jobs, etc., while undertaking the study of a relevant issue at the time. So we pick a contemporary issue of importance in sports media, and we study it. Probably about a quarter to a third of the class time is allocated to working on that content, and then the rest of the time we work with the students to get their professional materials really in tip-top shape, so that by the time the course is done, they've in fact applied for a few jobs out in the field. So that's 33 of the 39 credits. The other 6 credits are forced choice elective credits, if you will. So we give you some options, and you take 6 more credits to round out your own particular interests. Now, one of the ones that's most popular and that I in fact recommend is to take the sports media practicum. And you can earn 1 credit per semester and do this for 6 different semesters, thereby earning all 6 of the elective credits doing the practicum. And what the practicum is the students who sign up to work in the Raven Sports Network, which is an extracurricular program the Fitzwater Center runs to cover all of the home games of as many teams as possible. The NE10 has mandated by 2021 every home game of every team in the NE10 must be live streamed to the NE10's network. We need a lot of students because that's a lot of games to cover, and students show up, and some games you might be a production assistant helping to lug the equipment to the field house or down to the baseball field, etc. And other games you might be the play-by-play announcer or the color commentator. But the students do whatever work is required by the director of the Raven Sports Network, and they work at least 40 hours during the semester, which turns out to be between 10 and 14 games for the semester, to earn their credit. We then meet once a week for an hour as a group to discuss the elements that are going on within that internship-like work and see what the issues our students are facing, what's been going well for them, and how they might prepare to do a better job the following week. Just as the practicum provides an opportunity to do real-world work under a professional supervisor on campus, internship in sports media are encouraged for off-campus as well. Because of our rural location in Rindge, New Hampshire, we don't have a lot of hotbed media sites within easy driving distance during the semester. So we do not require an internship, but we encourage students, particularly over the summer, to locate production companies, sports teams, uh, arenas in their hometown or nearby and arrange for internships over the summer with those organizations. Um, like the practicum, an internship requires 40 hours of on-site work for each one academic credit that is earned. Students have done 6 and even 9 credit internships over a busy summer job. So it's quite possible to fulfill your elective course credits by doing 1 internship or 2. And again, these are minimum requirements. You could theoretically do an internship between sophomore and junior year for 3 credits and do another one between junior and senior year for 3 credits and work in the practicum all 6 semesters that you're eligible and end up with 12 elective credits. Just makes you a stronger candidate for a job when the time rolls around. We have a course in sports broadcasting that we offer every couple of years to students who are particularly interested in doing the on-air work of being a play-by-play announcer. And we try and bring in out-of-town professionals to teach that course whenever we can. Okay, so that about wraps it up for the major. As you see, it's 39 credits. 33 of them are core courses that all students take together. The remaining 6 credits are as you elect within your own interests. One other option within those electives is if there is a course in sports media or in communication that you think suits your career objectives, it's quite possible to use those credits toward the sports media major. An example of this would be the communication course called Single Camera Production, which is a 300-level course that works on video productions beyond intro to media production and beyond sports media production. So if you were really interested in being a sports documentary filmmaker, you might take single camera production and then use the time in that class to work on longer mini documentaries about sports events or athletes in and around campus. And that course would then be approved as part of your elective requirements for the major. Before concluding, I want to talk briefly about the minor. It's a 20 credit minor, and I'll get to it in a minute. But one of the things that many students do, and we design the programs so that this is readily available for you to do, is major in sports media and then minor in communication, or major in communication and then minor in sports media. Some students major in sports and recreation management, which is a very large major that requires somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 plus credits. And so they can't double major in sports media, but they're still interested in the sports media and sport and rec management angle. And so they can minor in sports media. So we do have it as an option, and let me turn to that now. The sports media minor is 20 credits, so it's about half the size of the major. And you can see that the required courses are the Foundations of Sports Media and Journalism 1 and Intro to Media Production, the same as if you were majoring. And then you have a choice between sports reporting or multi-camera production, depending on whether you wanted to be print-based or more studio talk-based. And then you have a choice between sports media production or sports marketing, again, depending on what your interests are in whatever your major is, because at this point you're in a minor in sports media, which means maybe you're majoring in marketing, or maybe you're majoring in communication more generally. You take 2 semesters of sports media practicum and then the International Sports Culture program, and that would round out the minor. Okay, well, that's about wraps it up on those programs. And yeah, that's me and my 3 daughters taking a happier times in July of 2019. at Plum Island on the coast of Massachusetts last summer, and we were not thinking about school at all that day. If you want to reach me, if you have any more questions about the sports media program or the communication major or any other general concerns about Franklin Pierce, I'm happy to hear from you at any time. It's rothR@franklinpierce.edu. I look forward to hearing from some of you, and I look forward to seeing some of you in the fall if, God willing, we can make that happen. Thanks very much, and take care of yourselves. Stay safe.